Hey everyone, this is Captain Steve Roger from Into the Blue TV. And as soon as I feel a little break from this heat, I know that hunting season is upon us. Actually, the first time I ever went hunting, a buddy took me. Wasn't my father or my grandfather. In fact, I took my father on his very first hunt. Well, Academy Sports and Outdoor Stores has everything to gear up for the field for less. Plus, you can shop a wide selection of ammo, shotguns, deer corn, rifle, feeder, game cameras, camo, and more from the brands you trust. Text HUNT24 to 22369 to take $20 off a $100 purchase when you shop hunting supplies at academy.com. Need a hunting license? Pick it up in store while you're shopping.
This episode is brought to you by Bleacher Report. How do you follow sports? From college football to the NBA, Bleacher Report brings you the latest news, live scores, and epic highlights from your favorite leagues, teams, and athletes, all in one app. Dive into exclusive shows hosted by your favorite athletes and original Bleacher Report series with breaking news, rumors, and predictions all season long. Download Bleacher Report to personalize your coverage.
Join Justin Townsend and the Harvesting Nature crew as they explore the world of cooking wild fish and game while sharing recipes, tips, tricks, and lessons learned from their pursuit of wild food. We sure hope you ate before the show, 'cause you're gonna leave hungry. This is the Wild Fish and Game Podcast.
Hey everybody, welcome back. Today, I'm joined by Adam.
Hello there.
See, I still work that in. And we're going to be talking about our first series. We're not going to be talking about it. This is our first episode of our new series, which is The Wild Kitchen. That's what we're calling it. So we're going to dive deep down in some rabbit holes, similar to the Cooking by Cut. So it's going to be very niche. But we're going to talk about specific dishes and then incorporate wild game into them. But we're going to sort of talk through techniques and everything, and then round it out towards the end with some wild game recipes. We're going to talk about some of our favorite tips, tricks, and techniques. That's also in the intro. But we're going to cover a lot, everything from like how to do things to some challenges you may run into, to tips, to kind of like incorporating wild game into it, the dish, and then we'll talk about our favorite stuff. So it's really going to be a cool episode. That we're going to flesh out the details as we go along, build the plane as it flies, as they say. But as far as updates for me, not a whole lot going on. Looking forward to an early January Sika deer hunt in the Maryland shore, which should be really exciting and entertaining. We've got some friends coming in for that, so we'll probably do a podcast while we're out there too, so you can get the grungy details of what it's like a couple days on the eastern shore of Maryland hunting the swamp ghost, or whatever they deem it. I don't know. Adam, over to you.
I just got back from another Harvest Nature Wild Pig Culinary Camp, which was another success, as they all tend to be. So I'm always feeling pretty flushed and ready to go after one of those. Everyone got pigs, lots of pigs, so it's just we're spending tons of time butchering, eating tons and tons of food as is per usual. So yeah, it was a great time, and now I'm staring down the barrel of the end of my hunting season with very little time and a bunch of Christmas traveling and stuff to go through. So hopefully I can get in. I'm hoping whitetail bow hunt, duck hunt, and one more goose hunt, hopefully before my season ends, which comes around Christmas time. So hopefully I can get that out, and then otherwise I'm just chilling.
Nice. I did want to say, I talked about it on the last episode, but we updated the dates for the Hangshaw Pig Camp, so we're going to be earlier in April. We're going to be the 10th through the 13th of April versus the tail end of April. So if you have free time on your schedule, which you should, if not, make free time, come join us down in Texas for what we'll deem as a super fun and exciting pig camp with Hank Shaw there as well. Special guest. Get to hang out with him, eat some of his food, eat Adam's food, eat my food, eat everybody's food, and learn to shoot, butcher, process, and cook wild pigs. So it's a great time. Come on down. All right, today we're going to be talking about the sandwich. we're going to dive a little deep into the sandwich itself, and then we'll just see where it takes us, All right, so the history of the sandwich. The sandwich, as we know it today, is credited by John Montague, the 4th Earl of Sandwich. He was an 18th century nobleman. And the legend is that Montague, who was an avid gambler, requested meat be placed between 2 slices of bread to allow him to eat without leaving his gaming table, thereby popularizing the concept. And I can tell you, Adam, from my personal experience, that I too have attempted this and used this pretty regularly. Bread tends to be a great enabler of multitasking for me, and as a result, I'm able to get a lot more things done because of the Earl of Sandwich and his invention. Actually, it probably wasn't even his invention. What happened, he probably yelled at somebody, threw a pint of beer, and, was like, "Get me some food, but it's something that I can eat while still gaming," or something. And, as we all know, the person working in the back of the house was like, "Let's come up with this thing. What are we going to do? Some bread and some, roasted meat," and boom, there he goes. As you have it, we now have the sandwich. But to tear away from this very European story, the practice of eating fillings enclosed in bread or flatbread existed long before the Earl of Sandwich did his sandwichery. And examples like the ancient Jewish Hillel sandwich of lamb and bitter spices, or the Middle East pita-style wraps, existed. And by the 19th century, sandwiches became a staple in Western diets, evolving into a global culinary phenomenon encompassing a wide range of styles and flavors. I agree, there's such a fine line between what makes a sandwich and what makes, would you consider a wrap to be a sandwich, or is that a burrito?
Yeah, it's tough. I was just thinking while you were talking there how we're going to define the sandwich for this podcast. Because is a burger a sandwich? Technically, yes. A hot dog, I guess. A wrap. I would say and we could get into the nitty-gritty of that and spend our whole hour just yelling at each other about what's a sandwich. But I think for this one, sandwiches can include, like a wrap or a pita, but not a burger or a sausage on a bun kind of thing. Because I feel like we can tackle those, burgers, just as its own podcast episode in this fashion. So let's stick to kind of the lame turkey wraps or whatever else you can find, and the pita
let's take wraps out of it. Let's take wraps out.
No wraps. Okay.
No wraps.
Oh, with the wraps.
Let's do things squished between 2 pieces of bread.
Yeah,
and we'll include pita.
Yeah,
pocketed style dishes, but no things that involve patties or links.
Yeah. I'm down with that.
Okay, let's do it. All right, you want to talk about how to build a proper sandwich, what it takes? Let's get us there.
Sure. So there's a lot of different elements that go into building a proper sandwich. And I think the first one you should probably consider is choosing the right bread. You really want to match the bread to the filling. And in a pinch, any bread will probably do, but heartier breads like sourdough, ciabatta, like a hefty rye, those kind of breads do pair well with robust fillings. We're talking about like cured meats that have a lot of flavor, saltiness, cheeses, heartier vegetables, kind of like a big solid sandwich. Softer breads like brioche or potato rolls, which are very famous in the States, but I don't actually encounter them much in Canada, and I really wish I did because it sounds great.
You guys don't have brioche up there?
We have brioche, but the potato rolls I just don't see around.
Oh, potato rolls. You know what's funny is because when I was younger, I remember my mom buying potato bread, and it was really kind of I don't know, I was probably 12, preteen or whatever, and I remember it becoming potato bread with roast beef and cheddar became a staple for whatever reason. It was really good. And now today I've seen potato bread all over the place, and I'm not sure as to the origins or how it is, but it's yellow and different when not all potatoes are yellow and different.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
It's probably Irish. I'll just take a stab or hazard a guess there. But we'll have to see. Yeah, I just don't see the potato rolls, and I feel like, the big websites, the big recipe websites like New York Times Food and Serious Eats and whatever, Bon Appetit, they all recommend potato rolls for their sandwiches, so that might help be like pushing the interest in them. But we'll see if they make their way into Canada. I'm sure you could find them here, but they're just not available in the grocery store that easily. But either way, those softer breads like potato rolls or brioche work really well for more fluffier, delicate fillings. If you're thinking like chicken salad or egg salad, I don't know if you ever had an egg salad sandwich on some stiff piece of rye, it just doesn't quite work.
No.
So you want to match that bread to the filling itself. And while you're doing that, you got to consider the texture of the sandwich. So for a big crunchy sandwich, you want like a crusty baguette or a ciabatta, stuff like that. Well, if you're thinking of something smooth like a peanut butter and jam sandwich, you want like a smooth, creamy filling, sliced white or whole wheat. Like keep it simple and keep it soft. Then you're looking for flavor. A lot of breads are flavored or have a lot of flavor. So like a subtle bread, such as like a plain white sandwich bread or a pita, those will allow some bolder flavors to shine through if you really want to focus on the filling or the flavor of your sandwich rather than the bread itself. You can use just those like really light, subtle breads. While flavored breads, so if you're thinking like a nice herby focaccia bread, or those like cheese or onion rolls or different things like that, those can enhance or complement like milder fillings. So if you're thinking of like something relatively bland, like just cooked chicken or turkey breast, that might taste better on like an onion roll rather than just a plain white bread. Then we're moving into practicality. Like the Earl of Sandwich, if we're at our gaming tables, we want sandwiches that are meant for portability. If we have it in like packed lunch, or we're bringing it somewhere, we're serving it to a bunch of people, something like a sturdy bread, like a whole grain loaf or like a baguette or something, can hold those fillings without becoming too soggy. There's even sandwiches like the smørbrød of the Scandinavia, where they just kind of have like open face sandwiches stacked with everything. Those are kind of the sturdy block, and the sandwich is built on top like an open face. So keep that in mind if you're serving, like a party and everyone's just walking around standing up. You don't want this soft sandwich that's going to fall apart as you eat it all over everyone's shirt. Lastly, I was thinking, cultural inspiration. So if you're making an Indian kind of sandwich, maybe naan is your best bread for that. Or if you're doing something like, a Mexican sandwich, then the certain Mexican breads are going to fit that a lot better. And you can break away from that. You can always break rules and get into fusion and different fun things. But sometimes you just want that whole, kind of authentic experience, and you want to look for the proper breads for that. So bread selection is super important. So try to think of what your sandwich is going to be, and then pick the bread to suit it.
So I went down a rabbit hole with potato bread. So apparently potato bread is just any bread that incorporates potato and as partial substitute for the flour. But Brazil has variations: Chile, Germany, Hungary, Northern Ireland, Poland, Scotland, the United States. What we consider potato bread is not necessarily what everybody else is. So potato bread being very commercially available, like I mentioned here in the States, it's light and airy, much like what we consider just standard white bread and you go to the store. But it's got a yellow tint, a thicker texture, and a light potato flavor. That's the definition. But I found a cool Cherokee sweet potato bread, which I found a recipe, and it's I was looking at it, but it's actually, so the recipe I found, it's on the Cherokee Tribal Food Distribution Program. To me, it looks more similar to a dumpling, just because it contains 3 sweet potatoes, or maybe not a dumpling, I guess a tamale or what. In Choctaw, we have one that's very similar to that. It's made into kind of like a paste with corn and stuff, and then it's boiled or steamed, similar to like tamales.
So it's like a pudding, like a British pudding almost?
No, let me explain it. Okay. So 3 sweet potatoes, 2 cups of cornmeal, a half a cup of flour, baking soda. You mix all the dry ingredients, add 3 cups of boiling water with the potatoes to the cornmeal mixture. Take a half a cup and make a patty. Wrap it in aluminum foil and boil it for 45 minutes. Let cool and enjoy.
Oh yeah, somewhere in between
Yeah.
bread and a dumpling.
But I'm very interested in this. Yeah, they makes a stiff dough. The picture that they have on this is not. It looks like a cinnamon roll. It's definitely not that. But I'm gonna try it. I'm intrigued now.
Me too.
All right, so sogginess. Sogginess is your enemy when it comes to sandwich making. And I think really that's because you don't want your sandwich to fall apart, like Adam said. No worse thing could happen than you're cruising around with your sandwich at your gaming table, and all of a sudden it falls all over your poker chips. Nobody wants that. That's not fun. But even too, like if you're in any place, and I think the most like standard example of this is you make a sandwich at home and you go take it to work or school or whatever, and you go to pull it out of its container and it's just like mushy or soggy. Or you go to a restaurant and you get like this delicious sandwich, and you know, you have it there and it's nice and crispy and all that, and then you get half of it, and you take the other half home and you go to eat it and pull it out later, and you're like, oh, it's just this big soggy mess. So ways in which to combat sogginess is if you're going to travel, don't add those ingredients into the sandwich. But I think if you want to deal with it just in the moment, you know, put soggier items like tomatoes or pickles or all that on the inside, like not touching the bread as a way. And then I think toasting is a great way to combat sogginess. To me, I'm a huge grilled sandwich person, so like paninis, pressed sandwiches, even just a plain old grilled cheese. That will help combat sogginess. I think, though, don't put it in its container straight away if you're going to travel with it, because then the heat will naturally make it soggy. I actually had that happen to me yesterday. I had like this beautiful tasso ham, which is a Louisiana style like cured pork shoulder, and I'd sliced it and browned that, and then I took some aged cheddar and put on there, and I used a bit of truffle oil to grill it in, and it was like this phenomenal sandwich on sourdough. And then I let it cool a little bit, but maybe not enough, because then I put it in the bag to go take it to work, and then pulled it out for work, and it was just kind of like, it wasn't soggy, but it was not crunchy anymore, which is that's sad. I think too, that would probably be a good reason why you see a lot of delis and stuff use paper bags and paper wrap versus plastic, because Definitely. It helps like air and keeps that like firm and crispness. So that's another hot tip as well. Maybe use paper bags to store your hotter sandwiches in.
Definitely to help save your bread, layering on, whatever sauce you're using, like mayonnaise, butter, cream cheese kind of works. The oils in that will actually help protect the bread from whatever juices are leaking through, say from tomatoes or pickles or whatever else you have in there. And they'll actually create like a protective layer on your bread. So it's better to layer both sides, like the top and the bottom slices, with some sort of protective oily ingredient like mayonnaise or butter, or even something just like olive oil, like I've scraped on olive oil. And it seems like that would make it soggy, but it actually doesn't. The oils actually protect it.
Like seasoning a cast iron.
Exactly. There's one cool exception to this, and one of my favorite sandwiches, and I make this one camping often because of its different attributes. But it's the pain beignet, which is a Parisian or French sandwich. Maybe not Parisian. Maybe it's I'm trying to think, probably in the South anyways, but it's basically, you have like tuna and olives and pickles and a bunch of stuff on this, on like a baguette. And instead of trying to eat it really fresh, you load the sandwich up and then wrap it in tinfoil and let it sit for half an hour or an hour or a couple hours, and then serve it. And the baguette is thick enough to absorb some of that juice and without like going through the crust. And the whole thing just becomes, you know how when you make a stew, then you eat it and like, that was pretty good. Then you put it in the fridge overnight, eat it again. You're like, wow, now it's amazing.
All the flavors kind of marry.
Yeah, that same kind of thing happens on the pain beignet. And and it's just there's something magical about it. So, like I said, I use it for camping because I can make it in the morning, go on a canoe trip, whatever, pull it out for lunch, and instead of just having some crackers or whatever, we have this beautiful sandwich that actually benefited from sitting around for a couple hours.
So, what kind of tuna are you using?
I would use a tuna packed in oil.
Okay.
Tuna packed in water is fine, but you have to drain it really, really well because you don't want any of that water kind of hanging out in the sandwich itself.
So you're not making like a traditional like tuna salad. It's just the tuna.
It's more like just shredded big chunks of tuna in it. There's a lot of variations on the sandwich, but it's just to spell it out for you guys because I've been saying it in French. It's pan, it's PAN, and then bagnette is BAGNA if you're looking for it. ANAT.
NAT, yeah.
Yeah.
I've been on a big tinned fish kick, not just like you go to the grocery store and pull one off the shelf. Like I've been going for big high brands. Like if I come across them in specialty shops, I've been picking one up. Like anywhere between $10 and $20 tins of fish, and just like I was just picturing making that, which I'm probably gonna do today, as a delicious sandwich. Oh, it sounds good.
Yeah, you could replace the tuna with like mackerel or sardines or anything. It would go really, really well with that.
Or even like a smoked salmon or smoked trout in the like oil. Yeah. Oh, all right. Now we're talking. We're excited.
Now we're getting into sandwiches.
Wild salmon and wild trout.
Yeah.
Looking for a pickup truck to get just about anything done? Look no further. The Chevy Silverado EV isn't just the most powerful Silverado ever, with next-level towing capability and technology. It also offers game-changing versatility with the available multi-flex midgate and tailgate, which means Silverado EV helps you carry large, bulky, and oddly shaped items up to nearly 11 feet in length. Chevrolet. Together, let's drive. Visit Chevrolet.com to learn more.
The holidays are back at Starbucks, and there's so much to share. With classics like Caramel Brulee Latte, Peppermint Mocha, and Chestnut Praline Latte, we're celebrating everyone's flavor of festivity. Order yours in the app.
All right. You kind of covered it a bit. Do you want to go through some tips of like putting it all together?
Sure, yeah. These are just a couple tips we put together for putting your sandwich together. You can take them or leave them, but this one is try layering hot and cold ingredients to avoid hot and cold bites. So you might notice in sandwiches sometimes you just get a big bite of like your lettuce and tomato, and then your next bite is a big bite of whatever hot element is on your sandwich. Try layering in such a way that every bite you're going to get a little bit of hot and cold. That just makes a much nicer sandwich. Although to break that rule, I have seen some sandwich shops saying that they prefer having different bites. So like stacking the sandwich kind of differently and making like spreading your ingredients around a little bit so not every bite is the same. I'm not sure how I feel about that. I think I'd rather have a bit of a homogeneous kind of sandwich, but it's all up to you. We did say earlier that sliced tomatoes, they can dribble a lot of their juices into the sandwich and make the bread soggy. But one thing you want to watch out for is layering them in the middle of the sandwich. So often say you put like your mayonnaise, meat, cheese, and then throw in a bunch of tomatoes and lettuce in the middle. Then when you squeeze that sandwich, the tomatoes are just sliding across each other and they're all going to shoot out. Your top of the sandwich is going to come disconnected from the bottom. It's a mess. It's no one good. You are better off putting your tomatoes not really touching each other and closer to the bread. Even if you have a layer in between the tomato and bread, that way your sandwich will stay together better. If you want to really make a big, high, kind of towering sandwich, which can be fun sometimes, make sure you slice your meat very, very thinly. Big chunks of meat on a sandwich like that, it was just going to fall apart. You're going to be like pulling them out of the sandwich while you eat. It's a mess. If you want to make like a nice towering one, I'm thinking like the deli style sandwiches in New York, Montreal. Slice super thin and pile them up. One thing we run into often with sandwiches, you're making a beautiful sandwich, it's wintertime, and you pull out a tomato, and it's like pale pink, and you can knock it on the wooden table, and it's going to be no good. There's no flavor, there's no texture, it's just a mealy texture. Ditch that cardboardy tomato and try something else with tomato. Like If you have cherry tomatoes, you can roast them into kind of like a spread. You could do like a sun-dried tomato aioli. Like you can incorporate the tomatoes, but try something different rather than just throwing like a shitty winter tomato that no one wants. It's no good.
Yeah, man, that just goes back to like that sort of seasonal eating. I was just thinking about that today. We have a couple like tomatoes in our fridge here that we picked up at the store, and nobody's like touched them yet, and they've been there for a few days. And I'm like, I think we've grown accustomed to eating very seasonally, and maybe like it's just not time. It's cold outside. I don't really think about like, hey, I'm gonna grab a tomato and eat it up.
Yeah, but you could roast it and try it
Yeah.
out. You could do something. You could find cool ways to incorporate it. I think even worse than a soggy fall apart sandwich for me is a dry ass sandwich.
Yeah.
That's like, you're eating it and you're like trying to smack your lips together just to get that sandwich down your throat. It's just, I hate that so much. And that's important when you're making a sandwich to make sure you do not end up with a dry sandwich like that. And, mayo and mustard aren't your only options. You can add more condiments to lubricate it and give it lots more interesting flavors. So you can experiment with things like, mustard, different chutneys, hot sauces, relish, aioli, hot pepper jelly. You can get in with different pickles or olives that are a little juicy or fruit. Like there's a lot of different ways you can add more moisture to your sandwich while at the same time adding lots of cool flavors. You don't need to just stick to mayonnaise, even though I love mayonnaise.
I think too, also, you could have, a pretty standard sandwich, right? You could have a meat, you could have a cheese, you could have just a vegetable element, and those could be just like plain Jane, right? Like a roasted meat, a cured meat, a standard cheese, all that. And you could really make like a banging sauce. Like a chimichurri or like some really like over the top, spicy, crazy, wild flavored sauce. And like it just enhances kind of the whole dish all around, I think is something really cool too. And I'm with you, like dry sandwiches suck.
Yeah. No interest in them. You can, like your signature sauce that you say, you can take something interesting like harissa paste or gochujang paste or honey. There's lots of things you can mix into your like main sauce, like your mayonnaise or butter or whatever, to make it a lot more interesting. So go raiding the door of your fridge and see what you can find in there. You can even like chop up olives or chop up some interesting thing you pickled. Or nuts. There's so many things that you can add to make that sauce more textured. It's great. On that note of sauce, you can also just try dressing your lettuce and veggies in a vinaigrette, which is something that the Italian delis tend to do. And the Italian sandwich is always, I've never had a bad one, I don't think, but part of the reason I think is they dress all that shredded lettuce in a vinaigrette and put it on. So there's that sandwich isn't going to stay great for a long time because things are going to get pretty soggy quickly. But if you eat it quickly, it's amazing. You just have, like, your entire sandwich is moist from top to bottom. You got lots more flavor going on. You got lots of different elements, acid cutting through some of the richness. That's a really cool way to add some more flavors. Did you have anything to add?
I think so. So a couple tips I've got. So utilize leftovers, right? I'm a big fan of taking like big cuts of meats, roasts and things like that, and slow cooking them. And sometimes I'll just slow cook them with a stock, with salt, with pepper, Harvesting Nature's Big Game Blend. And then I will just take and shred that meat or chunk the meat and eat off of it, for 2 or 3 days, making pasta dishes, making rice dishes, making sandwiches. And I think that's a really good way to utilize sort of like the leftovers. And because all the flavor and stuff is there, you just mix in a few other items, like you can take and cut up olives and make like an olive paste and create, saute some onions as you're warming up the shredded meat and, add in some vinegar and spices. And now you've got like this Italian inspired sort of sandwich you can put together. I think about one of my favorites is including like meats and grilled cheeses. And just different style, like mix in some shredded cheese and then some shredded meat and then grill it in the pan. Like literally can't get any more simple than that, and it's just so phenomenal. I think also too, think about it holistically as you look at wild game dishes. So add in like some wild greens that you foraged, or some root veggie chips. Like get a little wild with it. Use a game broth and like a au jus, and like dip in it, and dip in your sandwich, and like enhance that sort of experience, kind of tying all those together. You could use mushrooms as well, or whatever fish you've got from your fishing trip. Maybe instead of saving it all for fresh cooking, like cure some or dry some or smoke some, and have that sort of ready to like put on sandwiches. I was just thinking about I had a buddy gift us some smoked fish, and it's been like super phenomenal. We've been eating on different things, crackers and all that, but I was like, man, I need to take some and make a nice sandwich with it. So I'm excited about that. But oftentimes too, those fish that people categorize as kind of like trash fish, those oily fish, smoke very, very well, and then that's like what you want for a sandwich. Because
it's perfect for a sandwich.
Yeah, because it's getting all that flavor in there, and then you've got the bread to sort of like absorb that excess oil, and then you can mix it. You're not just eating it straight away; you're kind of balancing it out with the other flavors in the sandwich, which I think is really good.
I would say break the rules too. We just gave you guys a couple rules, and you probably heard different rules, but like one major rule is that fish doesn't go with cheese, which is absolute BS. There's lots of different ways that fish is excellent with cheese. Like try a fish and cheese sandwich. Why not? I think we have a recipe on Harvesting Nature for like a smoked trout and grilled cheese sandwich that looks incredible. There's rules that can be broken in. If you like a dry ass sandwich, break the rules and eat a dry ass sandwich. Who are we to tell you? I think you're crazy, but whatever. And one thing you mentioned there, you said vegetable chips, which brought into my mind just chips, potato chips. That is my favorite thing to put on a sandwich, bar nothing. It's just a handful of chips just for that extra crunch. Like I love building different like contrasting textures in my sandwiches. And add some salt and some flavor, and a handful of chips just smushed onto a couple slices of bread with whatever's on there. I'm a happy man.
I like it. Gosh. I think so. You're a mayo guy, right?
Yes. I'm Dutch background, so there's a lot of mayo in the.
I'm a mustard guy. I enjoy all types of mustards, but really potent, tasty mustards, not your cream of the crop sort of like yellow French's mustard. I like good English mustard, a good stone ground mustard, a good Cajun Creole mustard,
a little Grey Poupon on there.
Yeah, a little Dijon. All those. I think mustard adds that bit of tanginess that I think a sandwich requires. Yeah, it's good.
Okay, I have to tell you, I was just looking on eBay where I go for all kinds of things I love, and there it was.
That hologram trading card. One of the rarest, the last one I needed for my set. Shiny like the...
designer handbag of my dreams. One of a kind. eBay had it, and now everyone's asking, ooh, where'd you get your...
windshield wipers. eBay has all the parts that fit my car. No more annoying... just beautiful...
Whatever you love, find it on eBay. eBay. Things people love.
This episode is brought to you by AWS. Amazon Q Business is the new generative AI assistant from AWS. Many tasks can make business slow, like wading through mud. Help! Luckily, there's a faster, easier, less messy choice. Amazon Q can securely understand your business data to help you streamline tasks, like summarizing quarterly results or doing complex analyses in no time. Q got this. Learn what Amazon Q Business can do for you at aws.com/learn more.
All right, let's go into wild game and sandwiches. And we're going to go through kind of a list here, and we'll both kind of just bounce back and forth and expand on them. But I'll start off, I already kind of alluded to it, the pulled and shredded. Great way to make sandwiches, really, if you stick with a standard base of like pulled or shredded meat. And it doesn't matter what game animal it is, you can usually get pulled meat out of it. Yeah. Whether it's upland fowl, whether it's big game, small game is a great contender for pulled and shredded. And
shredded squirrel is amazing.
Yeah, if you keep your base pretty standard, you can easily incorporate different types of sauces in order to go with sort of what flavor or cuisine you're looking to get out of your sandwich.
Yeah, definitely. And you can go for the the basic that everyone knows, which is your pulled pork sandwich. We've done it with wild pig, which is always good. But yeah, any kind of like sturdy muscle that has a lot of connective tissue, like your shanks, your shoulders, your neck, those are all perfect for like slow cooking and shredding apart. And you can do like a big muscle or a whole shoulder or something like that. Shred the whole thing, and then like Justin said, you just have it available for anything you want, whether it's sandwiches, whether it's soups or stews or pastas or rice, doesn't really matter. And it's great to have in the fridge.
I would say the neck as well.
Yeah, the neck's one of my favorites for that. And it makes great sandwiches. You don't always have to go with like the traditional kind of barbecue sauce pulled pork. One of mine that I really like doing is kind of like a shredded venison shoulder with provolone cheese and like grilled greens like rapini or something like that. That makes just an incredible sandwich. I really enjoyed that a lot.
Yeah. I think I maybe have to make that this week.
Yeah. I'm just going to have a stack of sandwiches.
Yeah. Oh, we're just eating sandwiches. The kids are going to hate me. We're eating sandwiches all week long. Yeah. All right, next let's roll into the meatball. So I think meatballs are such a great thing too. It's a good use of ground meat. I don't end up with a lot of ground meat at my house just because I prefer like the whole cuts and then kind of break those down from there. But I think if you're going to go ground meat, meatballs are really a great way to go. You pick your binder. We'll do another episode on meatballs, so don't worry. But I think meatballs in any form make really great. You can go from like the sort of Italian tomato-based one all the way to like a brown gravy to like the Swedish style to like the more Asian with sort of like teriyaki or tangy or lemongrass flavors. And really you can cover a variety. I mean, I think I have a recipe on the website for like jerked venison meatballs where I use like Jamaican jerk spices and all that. You can really put that into anything. You can put anything into meatballs.
Yeah, we have a recipe for gator meatballs. I've done fish, lots of fish meatballs. When you're bringing them onto a sandwich, because they're excellent on a sandwich, there's just something really nice about it with a little bit of sauce. But you want a sturdy kind of sandwich, and I find that the rolls are like the long kind of hoagie or sub or whatever you call it wherever you live. That kind of long po' boy, whatever, the rolls do better because they just sit in there. Where 2 square slices of bread, they're probably going to roll out.
Or cut them in half.
And that's the other thing. Yeah. You can cut them in half. Or another thing I've done while cooking them, while I'm frying out the meatballs, just about when they're done, take a spatula and just smush them a little bit. Ooh. Not so they will fall apart, but just so they flatten a little bit.
Whoa, you're getting into patty territory, Adam.
Oh yeah, they're just running that line. But that means they won't roll around. They'll develop a little extra crunch and they'll fit better on like a more of a square piece of bread. But I recommend just going for the roll. You're gonna be better off.
Agreed. Also, hot tip for that: if you want to hollow out a little bit, scrape out a little bit of that roll, and then they'll make a nice little pocket for it to sit right in there.
Very nice.
And you could actually do that. Here's another hot tip on top of the hot tip. Do that before you mix up your meatballs, and then take that bit of bread and put into your meatballs as the binder. So you're not even losing it. Yeah.
I love that.
Ground game. So I think this one to me gets a little tricky of like incorporating that without a patty or a meatball. I don't know. What's your strategy?
Well, I have one of your recipes actually here for an antelope sloppy joe.
Sloppy joes,
which is a viable sandwich, I think, in our conversation. So you can get something that's like that stays together, kind of in a tight sauce. You don't want it super loosey goosey. You can get into like patty melts and stuff, which is where you start separating that burger from the sandwich. But I've done also things like kind of like a Greek gyro or gyro, where you can cook almost like a meatloaf and then slice the meatloaf, and then you can just do it with a meatloaf sandwich too. And a cold meatloaf sandwich, there's something stupid good about it. I don't know why.
Yeah,
it's different than everything else. Just white bread, mayonnaise, meatloaf, and maybe some like barbecue sauce or whatever else on it, and that's just something that's like a simple pleasure of mine. So
This is
yeah,
really
there's
good.
definitely ways you can incorporate like ground wild game into your sandwich like that.
I like the transition of slicing. So either sliced or whole steak or breast, depending on the game animal you've chosen. I think to me, like, that's probably one of my big leftover ones as well. Or quick cook. If I just need something, I'm like, all right, what's the thinnest, tenderest piece of meat in my freezer? Throw it in hot water real quick. Pan sear it to whatever temp I want, throw it on a piece of bread, or slice it and throw it on a piece of bread if I've got more than just like one sandwich size. And to me, like, that's just a great quick. To me, that's what I picture the Earl of sandwich eating.
Yeah, it was some sort of.
It's probably like a roasted steak of venison from the local game master. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm digging, but sliced up with probably no seasoning because and then just thrown on a sandwich and eaten. But I think that's that makes a sandwich.
Yeah, if you just think of like the leftover turkey sandwiches after Christmas or Thanksgiving, those that just sliced meat, a little bit of cranberry sauce or chutney or something. You can make like a hot sandwich by pouring gravy on it, or a cold sandwich, both of which are good.
Also, too, I go with like cured hams. I know we're gonna jump into the cold cut cured category, but that's a good transition of like, even if you've got smaller roasts that you've cured and smoked, like either hot or cold, it's the best. That's the best.
Yeah.
Transitioning over to cold cut slices. So in game, it gets a little more tricky if you've developed the skill to sort of like cure meat or create roasts and cured stuff like that. I think go for it. If not, there's a lot of resources out there to do it, and I encourage you to do it. Like roasted sandwiches, thin slice, just like you would go to the store and you would buy roast beef, or you'd buy ham or turkey or whatever. Like, those can 100% be made with wild game, and I think are phenomenal additions. Like, trade out your daily run to the grocery store for our daily run. Hope you're not consuming a pound of roast beef every day. Maybe you are. Trade that trip to the grocery store for like deli meat to like start looking how to make your own. I think like pastrami and Reuben style corn meat is, oh gosh, they're so good.
And it's quite easy to make at home too if you have the right stuff. Like, those are your easy curing projects. And if those are a little beyond you still, like a whole sirloin tip, the football roast out of the back of the hind quarter of a venison or elk, just roasted pink and then sliced.
Yeah.
Like, you just wrap it tight in plastic wrap, put it in the fridge overnight, and then that slices on the deli slicer or with a really sharp knife just as well. Like a whole gently roasted wild turkey breast. There's nothing to stop you from, slicing that thin for beautiful sandwiches.
Well, I think even too, like, you could go with the loin, or backstrap, and just make like really delicious like medallions.
Yeah, I've done that with I think I made like a bagel sandwich, like a Montreal kind of bagel sandwich. So just sliced rare roast venison, just incredible like that. So if you have some leftover, or if you want to make it particularly for that, I recommend cooking it, wrapping it tight in some sort of foil or plastic wrap, and that helps just hold its shape. Letting it sit overnight in the fridge, which also helps it kind of firm up for you, and then you got cold cuts for days.
I think this the seafood will just lump to one.
Yep.
It's hard to beat a fried fish sandwich. Like, being from the southern part of the United States, like, it's just so delicious, and I think it's commonplace. Fried fish is everywhere.
Yeah, definitely. Just that crispiness of the fried fish against the soft pillowiness of the bread. There's something beautiful about that.
Although I will tell you, a grouper Reuben sandwich was one of the best sandwiches I've ever had in my life.
I made a walleye Reuben sandwich before I ever went to Florida and tried them down there. But yeah, definitely one of the better ones of my life.
Oh yeah, there's
so
yours,
good.
the walleye Reuben.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's holy smokes. Like, and it's not fried. It's just grilled.
Yeah.
And it's just something about the kraut, the sauce, and the fish all kind of like you would think in your mind like a squishy texture, but for whatever reason it just like it breaks apart in texture in your mouth, and it just like it's so satisfying.
I just love it. I think I butter poached my walleye instead of grilling it. I butter poached it with Corning spices to get a little bit of that element into it.
Holy smokes!
Yeah,
I'm doing that. I'm doing that this week too. We're just making sandwiches. Always. Yeah, nobody's gonna get bored by these sandwiches. By the way,
they're incredible. Another one I've done is the fried pike, like Nashville hot sandwich.
Oh, that's a good one.
Doing that Nashville, where you like dip it back into the spices and oil and sauces and everything. I think I like it on fish even better than in chicken, and I love fried chicken, so that's saying something. Man,
me too. My daughter this past weekend, we went down to Richmond and we went to a restaurant down there, and you know she's 12. She's finding her way in the world of spice, and she ordered an enoki Nashville fried sandwich.
Oh, nice.
And I don't think she realized how like spicy it was going to be. And you know, as we say, bless her heart, she ate the whole thing, man, and she was paying for it. But she's like, nope, I'm gonna eat this. I'm gonna do it. And I was like,
that's how you push your limits.
Yeah, I was like, you didn't realize how spicy it was. She's like, no. She's like, but my classmates eat so much spicy food as well, and I don't get it. And I was like, you know, good for you for trying. Like, that made me a little proud, but it was good too. I would also say, like, we didn't include those on there, but like mushrooms in sandwiches.
Oh yeah, that's definitely mushrooms. I was gonna say before we move off of seafood, getting
so
a
much
little
to talk about seafood.
I know, just getting a little like moving beyond just your fish fillets. You can get into grinding it or chopping it for like a patty almost, which is incredible, especially with pink fleshed fish. Or if you're into getting wild seafood, things like octopus or different things like that, you can stew it and then put on a sandwich too, and that is unbelievable. Look to Spain and Portugal for some inspiration on that. It'll blow your mind. So you can step outside the box definitely with some of the, like if you're out there getting some interesting like clams or octopus or different things like that. Definitely don't limit yourself.
Oh man, yeah, we'll talk about po' boy, and I just holy smokes, you can put anything into po' boy.
Oh yeah,
and I love it. Oyster po' boys, shrimp po' boys. I would see clam, mussels, whatever. Like,
throw it on there.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. Let's switch over to sort of. We'll close out on the what works with this one is, and that's the offal. So, liver, spleen, heart, tongue. What did we miss?
Yeah, you do kidneys. You don't see the tongue sandwich is going to be one of your better ones, I would say.
Yeah.
Just because it's so rich, you can slice it thinly after you slow cook it. But I made some killer heart sandwiches in my time too.
I think heart. Yeah, I've been having a lot of discussion with a lot of folks about heart lately, and encouraging. And we go back to that the adage of like either cook it really hot, really fast, or cook it for a really long time. And I think it's a great candidate too, especially like you get a nice flat, you cut it so it's nice and flat, and you get it, whatever way. If you're going to pan sear it, or you're going to fry it, or you're going to grill it or whatever, just do it really quickly. And then it has such a great texture and bite to it that I think fits a sandwich really, really well.
Yeah, it's really nice. And some of the stronger flavor ones like liver, sandwich might be a good place where you can tamp down some of that organ flavor with all the other stuff you put on the sandwich. It will add that minerally kind of organ flavor in a mild way that will be really nice if you balance it with different flavors and textures on your sandwich. So it might be a good way to incorporate organ meat when you're not 100% down with it. Sandwich might actually be the way to go.
You have a really good Egyptian duck liver sandwich recipe, right?
Yeah, I think it's on the list there with tahini sauce. It's incredible. One thing before we move on to, I wanted to mention a little trick that I have is if you've overcooked something like a steak or wild turkey breast or grouse breast or something, and it's a little too dry to enjoy, throw it in the fridge, chop it or shred it up, and toss it in mayonnaise with some like sliced grapes or apples or whatever else you want to throw in there, and then that mayonnaise will act as enough lubricant to enjoy that overcooked piece of protein. Same thing goes when I'm making, stock and broth and everything. Like the kind of flavorless, like leftover shreddy meat that's left over in a pot, you can kind of pull it off the bones a little bit. It's not going to offer you much in terms of flavor or texture, but it does make actually a good feeling for a sandwich. If you, just throw it on with some mayo, salt and pepper or something, there's something, it just like re-livens itself kind of inside the sandwich. I don't know what, but if you're looking for like a quick lunch while you're making a big pot of stock, that's often where I'll go to.
Ooh,
it's quite delicious.
I think I want to mention one more, and this is like in the pita realm, in the realm of pitas. So we have on the website too, Arazada's elk pita smash, or arrayes, where you essentially just take a pita, you cut it in half, and you have to get one that you can fill, and then you stuff this like seasoned ground meat inside of it and smash it flat, and then you bake it. And the juices from the meat go into the pita, but the pita also crisp up in the oven. And oh my gosh, that is such a phenomenal, like, quick sandwich. And you can make those ahead and then reheat them.
Yeah.
They're phenomenal.
It's funny, I was just talking to, I was at a store, I was talking to a homesick Lebanese guy who was helping me out. We were waiting for something, so we were chatting about food for 20 minutes. And I brought up the Arrayes or whatever, and he almost started crying because he was missing his mom so much.
Oh,
yeah.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got a bunch of good recipes. I will throw them in the show notes. I'll just run through them real quick, just the names, since we're like close to time here. But like cube steak venison sandwich, gator meatball po' boys, wild pork pulled sandwich, Nashville hot pike, beaver bourbon brown sugar baguette, a wild game chopped cheese, a venison Reuben, an Egyptian duck liver sandwich, and an antelope sloppy joes. So we certainly have a good run of recipes over at the Harvest Nature website. So go check those out. The links will be in the show notes here. But I'll turn it over to you, Adam. Last thoughts.
The best way to learn more about sandwich making and get better is to go eat sandwiches. So go out, eat the sandwiches that are beloved by the countries around the world. So some of my favorites like banh mi from Vietnam, bafana from Portugal, the all-American Reuben, the tortas ahogadas, which is like a beautiful Mexican one from Guadalajara, shawarma, cubanos, po' boys are just everywhere. You got to go eat as many sandwiches as you can, and you'll get better at making them at home.
Yeah, I would say that too. And like, if you find an interesting sauce somewhere that you have on another dish, maybe it's not in a sandwich, but it's just on a dish, like ask what that is, figure out how to make it, and then start putting it on your sandwich. Especially, I find myself eating a lot of sandwiches for lunchtime just because that, I'm like the Earl of Sandwich in the middle of a bunch of things, and it seems
always gambling.
Always gambling. Gambling and drinking. No, not really. But I think they're really good options. I think I'll rank mine real quick. So like the po' boy, I went on about that, but one with like roasted meat and brown gravy is like super phenomenal. A French fry po' boy, if you've never had one, look it up. Once you look it up, go get one. Grilled cheese by itself, or grilled cheese with any kind of meat sort of inside of it. Always great. Breakfast sandwiches as well, I think, are really phenomenal. Reuben's at the top, barbecue, so anywhere from like sliced, anything smoked with a barbecue tangy sauce, I think I'll just throw in there. So sliced, pulled, ground, chunked, whatever you want to call it, and then cured, so hams. I'm a huge ham person. I love that like flavor that that process of curing following like the ham style brings. You can do that with any big game just as much as pork, and you're going to get a really great product. I think that kind of wraps us up. Thanks everybody for listening. Whatever podcast platform you're listening on, punch that 5-star button, leave us a review, tell us we're doing right, or tell us we're doing wrong. Thanks everybody. Have a good night.